We're going to do what's right, and we're going to do what's right, and we're going to solve the DACA problem. And I don't think the Democrats would want to pull another shot. A little more time. I want to get the problem solved correctly.
Congresswoman Gwen says Congress needs to unite to protect dreamers from what she calls an un-American agenda from the Trump administration.
Congresswoman Moore joining us this morning on 4-1 Forward. Thank you for being with us. What do you see is necessary in order to make this happen in less than 2 weeks for DACA and DREAMA recipients?
I'm really happy that you raised the point that it's 2 weeks, but it's not really 2 working weeks. The week coming up, Republicans are going to go on their annual retreat. Week after that, Democrats are going on their annual Democratic retreat. And so really there are only a couple of days left to do something. It's going to require compromise on both sides, quite frankly. Not only is the president asking for his wall and $25 billion for his wall, but I think that he wants to foreclose on opportunities for legal immigration, for family reunification, for diversity visas, and Democrats find themselves in a situation where, or dreamers find themselves in a situation where they're hostage to a lot of these demands. So it's going to require some compromise on both sides.
So let's talk about some numbers. When we talk about dreamers, in Wisconsin, we're talking what, less than 7,000 in our state? Around that number, and then across the country, 800,000 is a number I'm hearing, but in the president's proposal, he's saying it could reach out to 2 million. When you look at compromise, first of all, this is a change for the president. The president's saying he's now looking at a road to amnesty or to get the DACA recipients in. Do you believe him?
There's a little bit of a trust deficit.
Yeah.
I can tell you that no one knows. I mean, I think Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, they've all said that they don't know what to expect. Chuck Schumer has characterized negotiating with him like negotiating with Jell-O. And so I do think that it's smart for both houses to try to come up with some legislation and put it in front of him to sign. Dare him not to sign it, else we may be able to override him.
But what seems concerning in the conversation is, are we talking about dreamers? Are we talking about immigration for all?
Sure,
because right when we were talking at the shutdown of the government, there was some information that was sent out by the White House that made it seem that we must protect our borders, and immigration is not an easy issue that we can handle. But dreamers don't have felonies, they don't have misdemeanors, and that story is not being told, I think, when we balance the wall and protecting America with people who want the opportunity that we all have been given here in America.
That's well said, Shannon, because we're not just talking about dreamers, we're talking about their parents and other folks that didn't apply for DACA protection, but we're also talking about diversity visas. We're talking about those S-hole countries that the president referenced, and you know, the demand that in exchange for providing a path for dreamers that we may have to foreclose. The president is talking about foreclosing on legal immigration. And so those are very dicey issues.
So you say dicey issues. Do you say then let's get a clean bill for DACA, let's just deal with DACA, that's what's in front of you, and then try to tackle immigration down the road?
You know, that makes perfect sense when you consider that we only have 2-3 legislative days between now and February 8th, the next shutdown day. So some of us were very frustrated with just kicking the can down the road, because the keeping the government open is an entirely different issue with many substantive issues besides immigration. We're looking at a budget with the sequester caps that Republicans themselves admit is unsustainable to run our country. And Republicans in the House, at least, only want to raise the caps and spending for defense and don't want to do it for those other issues that are so vital for our community. I mean, keeping our community health centers open. I mean, paying forward, as Susan Collins has said, to keep the Affordable Care Act premium stable. Transportation issue, big talk about infrastructure, but there's no money. We gave $1.5 trillion to corporations and to wealthy individuals, and so it's really tough to talk about actually passing a budget when there's no money.
So what should your constituents do? What should people in Wisconsin do as we approach the February 8th deadline so that if the bucket gets kicked down again, they can hold their politicians accountable?
Well, I think that the Senate vote really demonstrated a reliance on Mitch McConnell keeping his word, that he's actually going to put a DREAM Act provision or immigration proposal on the floor. Now, that doesn't guarantee that anything will happen in the House. This is a different animal completely. But I think people should, all eyes are on the Senate and what happens by February 8th.
Speaker Ryan indicating he does like where the president is on this position, where he's come to. So do you see hope in the House that they can play along here?
You said Paul likes what has happened?
With the speaker, with what the president laid out.
Well, you know, Paul should share that with the rest of us, because none of the rest of us knows what the president has laid out. But if he likes the contours of what we've heard, then he's looking at, you know, barring certain S-hole country folk from coming in. And by the way, African immigrants, you know, tend to be very highly educated.
As well as Haitians.
Haitians,
And I think
skilled.
when I was referring to Speaker Ryan, he was talking about this proposal for Dreamers.
Right. Well, we need to settle this.
Okay.
I've met Dreamers, and they are very, very anxious.
Sure.
And they have contributed so much. And we've spent so much money on them already. We've educated them. They're talented.
Some have
They're
even
important part of the
served
community.
in our
They've served in the military. We need to, they're keepers.
All right.